For my final assignment, I decided to display environmentally friendly modes of transportation in New York City. It is important that people are aware of these modes of transportation because taking them is not only better for the environment, due to these transportation modes having a smaller carbon footprint than that of automobiles, but it also minimizes congestion. I decided to make both a non-ArcGIS online map, which gives a general look at New York City's subway and bike routes, and an ArcGIS online story map, which gives a more detailed look into not only subway and bike routes, but also bus and ferry routes. When creating my offline map in ArcMap, I was originally thinking of displaying a single map with both subway and bike routes. I decided to split this idea into two maps because I did not want my map to be overly cluttered. Instead of having just New York State as a background, I decided to include population categorized by natural breaks. I chose natural breaks classification because it divides the classes based on natural separations in the data. I included population because I wanted to demonstrate the easy accessibility for both dense and less dense areas in New York City. Regarding color scheme, seen here, I chose a preset purple sequential color scheme and then decreased the saturation to make it less distracting. I added in a park layer to demonstrate why certain large areas had such low population levels as well. Figureground is established due to New York City having many details and being different colors than the surrounding states and background layers. I also created an optimal layout by placing the legend in the top left corner here and the scale below the map, so that they do not take away from the main focus of New York City and environmentally friendly modes of transportation. I decided to not include subway or bike route related labels in this map because it would have been too overwhelming due to their large quantities. I converted the city labels to annotations so I could place them where I saw best fit, so that, for example, they don't overlap major subway lines here. I also increased character spacing to increase legibility of the labels. For water features, I made sure to use a sans serif font, and for cultural features, I used a serif font. When mapping subway routes, seen here, I could have categorized them by color based on the subway line, but I decided to save that for the online story map, which is more interactive and gives the viewer a closer look at the subway stations and lines. I made the subway stations and lines a little thicker than that of the bike racks and bike lanes because there are less subway features. Additionally, I also only included major bike lanes and racks because I did not want to overwhelm the map at this scale. So if you scroll down this website, you'll see here is the online interactive map. So I start off by showing subway, ferry, bus, and bike routes in New York City. And although it may seem a little bit overwhelming, I wanted to give the viewer a general idea of where public transportation is in New York City. And then on the bottom here, you can click through displays. So here's slide 2, it shows subway lines, and this will give the user a closer look at subway lines and stations. And if you want to learn more about the different features, you can toggle the legend here, and you can also click on certain points, which will tell you specific details. And for my legend, although I could have decreased the amount of subway lines shown, I decided to keep them all because I wanted to give the user a detailed and informational experience to learn more about the environmentally friendly modes of transportation in New York City. If you scroll to the bottom of the legend here, you'll see the population data. So how this map differs from the offline map is that it generalizes the 5 boroughs of New York City into one group, whereas the above map had different areas classified based on census area. So this more generalized population display is better for this map because I want the viewers to focus on the subway lines and stations. The next slide here shows the Staten Island Ferry. There's 2 ports, one port here, one port in Manhattan. This next map shows bus stop locations and also distances to bus stop. So the lighter orange color shows areas that are a quarter of a mile away from bus stops, and the darker colors, such as here, show areas that are 6/10 of a mile away from bus stops. So this map shows that generally most of New York City is less than a quarter of a mile away from a bus stop, which demonstrates how easy it is to access these stops. This next slide here shows major bike lanes in New York City, and then to give a more zoomed in look, this following slide shows not only the major bike lanes, but also the bike parking in Brooklyn and Queens. And if one wants to get a more detailed look here, you could zoom in and click on certain features. And this map could be useful to people who want to perhaps use these bike racks in the future. Lastly, I decided to use a streets view so people could more easily identify where these stops and racks are.